Well, hi, everybody. It's another Conversations With. And today we've got a great program. I'm really excited about this because I've been waiting for you fellows to come. Today with us is Hans Berg and Walter Parker. And they are with the Swedish group from Shrewsbury, am I right?
The Scandinavian Athletic Club.
The Scandinavian Athletic Club.
Yes.
You allow anybody else but Swedes in?
Absolutely.
So the Norwegians can come into the...
Norwegians and Finns and Danes, and actually any nationalities.
Oh, okay.
Icelandic.
Icelandic is
Really?
another.
Yeah.
Yes, if the,
Well, that's good. So let's talk about that. Tell me about the Swedish games, or the Scandinavian games.
It's the Scandinavian Athletic Club, but they really were started 93 years ago to promote soccer, men's soccer in the United States from kind of for the Scandinavians. So they had a place to play soccer.
Okay. So do they still do that, or is that...
we have a field, and there is our president has is part of a over 35 league, Shrewsbury. And,
Of course, now the Scandinavians are great hockey players.
Absolutely.
I mean, they're in the National Hockey League now. I mean, they've
Right.
really... And basketball players, so they've really...
They won
really-
the World Championship
Yeah.
not too long ago,
Yeah.
a few weeks ago.
Yeah, so that's outstanding. But let's get back to this. So we have the 105th Festival.
Yes, by the Swedish National Federation
Is sponsoring it.
is
That's correct.
sponsoring it for 105 years.
Right. Now, when is this going to be held?
It's going to be June 25th on Sunday from 11 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon.
One-day event.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And this is going to be in Shrewsbury.
Yes, at
Where?
438 Lake Street at SAC Park at the Scandinavian Athletic Club.
Oh,
We
there's
have
an
a-
actual club in it. A park.
Yes,
Oh.
we have a beautiful
Makes it easy.
facility there.
And
Wonderful.
there's actually a soccer field there. So we had a nice dedication of the field to our current president's father, and his name is...
Radar Pedersen, and he's 90 years old, who started a trend of memorializing some of our older club members while they're still alive and can
Well,
appreciate
you know
it.
something? I want to say something about that. I think one of the greatest tragedies in the United States of America is we wait till some poor fella or gal dies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then we name a school after them. We get a bridge named after them.
Yeah.
We name a square or a park after them.
Yeah.
And the poor person never knew it.
That's
Yeah.
right. We had a great...
Never knew it. And I'm
Yep.
saying, why don't we do this when they're still alive? So the person, and you guys have done it. Well, congratulations.
Thank
It was a
That's
really
been a
nice
pet
day.
peeve of mine.
Yeah.
I was involved in the government in the past, and I used to fight every time that, let's name something after President Kennedy. Let's not. Jack is dead, you know. Why don't we find someone who's alive, you know?
Yeah.
And they'd all look at me. And I'd say, look, I love the guy. I knew him. I was at his inauguration. But he won't care.
Yeah. And Radar Pedersen was really having a good time. I mean,
Proud.
he felt it in his bones, and it was
Yeah.
very nice. And,
Oh,
and we
yeah.
enjoyed having
But
him there.
but
and
my
it
thing,
was-
just put yourself in his place for 10
Yeah.
seconds.
Yeah.
How great to know that all these people think enough about him, and they did this little thing
Yeah.
for him.
That's right.
And he was there to enjoy it
Yeah.
and to relish it.
Yeah.
How great is that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, very much
And
so.
we're going to be continuing that through our Midsummer Festival. All of our older members like to come and tell us how they're doing, and they'll be at different tables throughout the festival selling bread and
Right.
Swedish delicacies. And,
Oh, so this is really a show and a half.
Very
Oh
much
yeah.
so.
Oh, this
we
is a
have
big deal.
Yeah, we have gambling. We have a tombola table. You buy
Oh,
chances.
Tombola?
Yeah,
I went to
and-
school with a tombola.
Different person.
Oh, different guy?
Entirely.
Tell me what a tombola table is.
Yeah. They have little beads, and they put a little piece of paper and slide it through there with is it a number or a gift?
It's number 2 a gift.
Number two a gift, and
yeah.
then you would you'd go over and you may get something, you may not.
It's
Okay.
kind of, yep,
And
it's kind of a little lottery,
Little
game.
lottery.
Oh, that's good. Fun thing.
Yes, and if
Yeah.
you, yep.
And so we have that, and
But they can get food too?
yes,
Oh, wow. That's,
Very much so.
Yeah.
Swedish meatball dinner with potato and
now
vegetable
I have to ask you
and
a
coffee
question.
and dessert.
I have to ask you a question. Did Swedish meatballs really come from Sweden, or is that something that started over here?
No, they've been from Sweden for a
Because you know, it's
very
so
long
funny.
time.
People go to the Chinese restaurants, and that's not what they eat over in China.
No, no, they
That's
call
all
it
created
food
that
over
here.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, they don't eat that same kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I go to Ireland every year to visit friends and neighbors and relatives, and they don't have corned beef and cabbage. That started
Right,
here.
that started here.
And how that
Right.
started
Yeah.
was, and it may be the same with the Swedish meatballs, is when they came over, they had no money.
Yeah.
They were poor. They came in the late 1800s, and the cheapest thing you could buy was corned beef.
Yeah.
It was a piece of beef that they salted and sit in brine, and so it was cheap.
Sure.
And cabbage they could grow in their backyard, and potatoes. So my Nana McGee would tell the story that, and she came from Ireland. We didn't have that over there. We started that here because
Yeah.
because we could afford it. You know?
It's a very popular dish in Scandinavia and in Sweden, and
Yeah.
always has been.
Oh, that's
Absolutely.
good. Well, that's good.
Yeah, a little bit of allspice and a little
Yeah.
bit of onion in it makes it
Yeah.
different than
Yeah.
Italian meatballs, for example.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's a
We're
classic.
taking, we have outbuildings at the club, Scandinavian Club, which is it's a big arrival venue, and
Yeah.
some people will they'll have weddings there and stuff. But we have
Oh.
a little like chalet out there, and there's going to be Swedish delicacies being made by some of our group members. There'll be sill, which is
Pickled herring,
Pickled
which
herring,
is
yeah.
an acquired taste, but
Yeah.
it's very traditional.
It-
That's not
and one of our members
a rich
is-
man's food either.
No.
Yeah, and one of our members is making some, so it'll be made by a Scandinavian, full-blooded Scandinavian in his kitchen.
Well,
and-
but that's great though, because one of the things that happens is we come here to this country, and our ancestors go back to the 18 and 1900s early,
Absolutely.
and they came over here and they became Americanized,
yes,
and a lot of these old traditions have got lost by the wayside.
Absolutely. That's
And-
what's
and-
so important
and
about
so,
our...
so now, it's the great grandmother, great grandmother. Well, the current kid, he doesn't know from a cord of wood,
Right.
real Sweden.
Right.
And
Yes.
and so these festivals are great for that because
Yeah.
it gives them a chance to really understand and learn about where their ancestors really came from.
Without a doubt.
and what they
Absolutely.
did.
That's our most important
Yeah, and
message.
I just think that's so great because
Yeah.
I think, and I'm not saying it's wrong to be Americanized. I'm just saying many of the great traditions that they brought with them over the years have been Americanized.
Right,
You know what I'm saying?
right.
Yeah.
And you get the old timers, and like our friend Peterson,
Mm-hmm.
and who's now 90. Boy, he can tell you some stories.
Yes, he can.
yes, he can.
He can tell you some stories.
That's right. He came over on the boat from Norway in 1954. He was
Yeah.
playing soccer for the Scandinavian
Yeah.
Athletic Club a week later. There are stories. He was a young teenager in the
Yeah.
resistance against the Nazis during
Yeah,
World
well,
War II. and those are stories that great.
I tell my
Yeah.
grandkids that their Nana, my mother, was born in 1911.
Yeah,
Well, they hardly had light bulbs.
right.
They didn't have. They had. I remember my Nana McGee, her mother, had an ice box.
Yeah.
And Mr. Rossi used to bring the block of ice every morning.
Yeah.
And I remember that as a little kid.
Right.
And now my grandkids look at me and say, "What's that, Papa?"
That's right.
You
And
know?
as they get farther away from that first
Yeah.
generation, it's nice to have a place to go to
Yeah.
learn a little bit about it,
About
teach
it,
your
yeah.
children about it a little bit, just
Yeah.
not to forget and
Yeah.
to keep
and,
it going.
Yeah, and on Wednesdays we have a Wednesday social, and a lot of the old timers will come down, and it's incumbent upon us as the new people to ask them their stories and talk with
Oh,
them.
yeah.
Because
Sure.
that's what we're there for. We're not there to kind of just have a meal. It's a social hour to give them time to talk.
But Walter, let me give you an advice.
Yeah.
Get yourself a tape recorder or a regular recorder.
Yeah.
You know what happens? These fellows are going to die off.
Yes.
And with them goes those stories are gone.
Yeah.
That's right.
And you get them chatting, and you get them talking, and you get them on recording. Like my brother David did some of my dad. My father served in both World Wars, and he was over in France in World War I with the old 26th Yankee Division. Second World War, he was in the Navy, and he was up in Newfoundland. They had a base up there, and Hitler was sending his subs over, trying to get to the Boston Navy Yard. And they were coming down the coast, and he'd sit up in Newfoundland with his turret, and he had the old primitive radar, and he'd watch them coming. And we had a couple of destroyers, and he had Morse code the destroyers, and he'd watch them pick them off. And Hitler never could figure out why they never came back. But he kept sending them. And they picked off 23 of his U-boats coming over from Germany, trying to get down to the Boston Navy Yard, coming down the coast. And he'd pick them off in Newfoundland.
We just
and
lost-
those stories, my dad, my brother taped a lot of them. And we have them, you know.
That's
and,
excellent.
and he's
That's
long
excellent.
gone.
Those oral histories
Yeah.
are part of
and those
projects
are
that we need
some
to
of the stories, you know.
do
So
more
you
in
get
the
these
club.
old timers, while they're telling you these stories, set up a little recorder because,
Yeah.
boy.
Yep.
Well, we
there you
have, Hans has brought up in the recent things, I mean, he texted me the other day that we want to start recording the guys and the girls and
Yeah.
their stories.
Absolutely.
And at Scandinavian Athletic Club, they used to have like a communal kitchen. And when the guys would come over from Sweden or all the Nordic countries, they would, the women would get together and make meals, and then they'd deliver them to all the job sites the guys were working at, because they didn't have kitchens
Oh, yeah.
or access to it. So they'd bring them their lunch, and they'd ride around, all from our Scandinavian Athletic Club, which is, so it's rich in history. It's,
Just the things we're not even scratching the surface, but the things
Right.
we've talked about. But let's get back to this festival because
Yep.
it's the end of June, and
Yes.
it's from 11 to 4.
Well, midsummer is traditionally in Sweden is celebrated. It's solstice, the longest day of the year.
Yep.
It's been a long, dark winter, and so we're going to celebrate those things. We have a maypole with dances around the
you have a
maypole.
maypole in June now.
That's a good question. They call it a maypole, and I don't know the answer to that. It is, but it is for
Well,
the
it's a
solstice,
maypole,
June
okay.
21st.
yeah,
Right.
and I think we've got some photographs of different things. If we put them up, we could take a look at that.
Yeah, let's folks see those, and we can
we'll see if they're
you can tell us what they are because people get a feel of what's going on
Right.
At that event, and I think that's so important
Yeah.
that they
Yeah,
get an
this-
opportunity.
This is Hans and Hager and Helga, and these are our greeters. So you can stuff your head in there when you
And
show
get a
up
picture.
And
take
some-
a picture.
take some
Great idea.
And so that's
Great
an
idea.
icebreaker as you're coming in, and that's out near our maypole.
Vikings are pretty iconic for.
Yeah, this is our pavilion, and that's Chuck there from the gift chalet, and they'll be there, and they're a big part of our Scandinavian history at our club. They're old-time club members, and her mother is a club member, and
Oh, wow.
everybody in the Worcester area remembers the gift chalet
In Auburn,
down in
Mass.
Auburn. And they're still alive and well, and
That's
Online.
great.
They don't have a physical
Yeah, they're-
presence, but it's online. Giftchalet.com, I think it is.
Yeah.
To give them a shout out.
this is a Norwegian ale bowl, part of my museum collection.
What's an ale bowl?
If you look at it, it looks like you grab the heads and you drink out of it. So at, like, say, a wedding, this would be a bowl carved by the man maybe from a grandfather or a father. And that's what they used to do when the father would be set up by a window, and during the winter, he would carve things like that.
Now, what does that say on the front?
Don't even ask me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually,
So it says, "Don't even ask me" on the front.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm glad to know that's what that says.
Yes.
Don't even ask me.
Yes.
Anyway, so you'd put beer in there or
Yep.
ale, and
And-
they'd drink from it.
Ceremonially, yes.
Right, like a wedding or
Yes, a wedding,
yep,
and a lot of
baptism.
these
But
say.
you see, that goes back to what we talked about earlier. Those are the things that can get lost.
Yes.
You know, they get away from those things, and
Right.
and yet it was so part of the whole
heritage.
heritage
Absolutely.
of the Swedish population.
Yeah.
In fact, that's called a what did you call it?
Ale bowl.
An ale bowl.
Yeah.
So when you've heard of skål when people
Yeah.
toast in
Yeah.
skål is a direct translation means bowl.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So
There you go.
and midsummer, this is your maypole, and
Yes.
folks dancing around it. We do a nice little pole raising.
Now, do you have a band?
There will be music.
There will be
absolutely.
music.
Yeah.
There may be. We haven't decided, and tonight is our monthly meeting, and tonight is when we nail down the final details. But it
There
could,
is an accordionist. There
Oh,
is
yeah.
a Swedish women's chorus that's coming.
Oh, good.
Maybe we'll have some fiddlers. Maybe we won't.
Yeah.
But there will certainly be
Music,
dancing and
okay.
playing around the maypole.
So they'll
as a ceremony.
be able to dance and have some fun.
absolutely.
Oh,
That's the main
great.
point, is to join in look silly, have a good time. And there's another shot of this is a Swedish museum that my wife and I set up. So we collect things. This kettle right here in front of us is a Swedish coffee pot. And this is kind of a large one. And so it would, a Scandinavian fireplace is usually a corner unit so that the heat would go out in two directions instead of our conventional fireplaces. You're just in front of it. And there'd be a pole on the corner. And so it would be a raised hearth, just like this little table is raised. And it would be set up on top of there, and the fire would be there, and you'd make your coffee. And so this is a fixture in every Scandinavian household.
Right.
They had one, and my grandmother had one. So, but this is a large, early, probably 1850s example. Could be a little earlier. And all copper, solid construction.
Yeah, I was going to say, imagine what that thing would copper cost today.
Yeah. And
how old is that?
Yeah, and it they would sometimes they would put a long handle in it if the fire is really hot.
Yeah.
So that's the way they did those. But,
That's great. So do we have any? Oh,
yeah, and that's we have a Swedish horse set up at the park to take pictures with your kids. You're welcome to sit on it.
Now tell me about a Swedish horse. Is that different from a regular horse, an American
Dalar horse,
a Morgan horse, or whatever?
Well, Dalar, Sweden.
Yeah, there's a province in Sweden called Dalarna, and that's kind of famous for a lot of the folk arts that come from. And a Dalar horse is like an iconic symbol in Sweden, and everybody tends to have one somewhere.
Yeah.
This painted folk
They
horse.
cut a big tree down, and they section it off, and then it's carved out of a single block of wood, and it's cottage industries. You know, the Germans did glass ornaments. The Swedes do the horses. They do roosters.
Oh, wow.
They do pigs, and so there's all kinds of. And on that note, there will be a talk done on Dalar horses. This is another picture of. These are for sale. Were for sale last season at the thing, and probably will be.
So people can buy these things.
Yes.
Take a Swedish horse home.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of Swedish handcrafts and Scandinavian handcrafts being sold.
Wow.
And
vendor
distinctively
tables,
Sweden
stuff.
is if you look on that photo, you'll see it's distinctively Sweden, and they're out of, I believe, the Attleboro area.
Wow.
And they're one of our vendors, and very nice people, and visit them there for sure.
So folks come from quite a distance to Attleboro.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
Sure. People come down from New Hampshire and
Really?
and all over.
Again, they remember their parents and grandparents coming to this, and so maybe if they've migrated out of the Worcester
But you
area,
see,
they come back.
what's great about that, though, is if they bring the kids with them.
Right.
Then the kids get a chance to really understand the heritage and what their great-grandfather or great-grandmother really what we're all about.
Right.
Oh,
And
that's
we
exactly
have we have a lot of things for kids to do. We have a bouncy house that my wife and I bring, and we set it up outside. My wife will set up a coloring station for the kids, so that if you need a break, and let the kids color, and
that's
they can
great.
make Swedish. It's customary for the Swedes to have crowns. The little girls to have little flower crowns, and we'll have a station set up for them to be able to make those.
That's right.
How many people do you get at this thing?
Maybe 300 plus.
350. Well, after your kind introduction to on the TV here, we're expecting 3,000 or
Pack 'em
4,000.
in. Oh, yeah, they'll be-
easily.
We're certainly growing.
Yeah.
It is an event that is growing,
Yeah.
and a lot of energy is pouring into it. And the
Yeah.
club is being revitalized. Which
Yeah.
Well, but that's great, because if you drive around and you listen, a lot of these they have in the when I was a kid growing up, down in where I grew up in Malden and Edgeworth was the Italian section, and they used to have what they used to call La Grande Festa Santa Rocca, but it was the Grand Festival of St. Rocco. Now I don't know who St. Rocco was, but it didn't matter. Everybody who was anybody went to Edgeworth for that weekend. It was Friday, Saturday, and Saturday night was the big night, because they greased the pole, and they'd put a $100 bill on the top of the pole, and they'd get guys on top of one another. There'd be teams come, and they'd try to get up to get the $100.
Yeah.
And I don't remember anybody ever getting that, but they had the grease pole, and of course you'd try to climb up to get that. That was one of the events, and I think you had to pay $2 to get on the thing, whatever it was.
So
But-
we'll find a
but they
Polish
had-
guy and grease him up.
Well, no, that was the Italians. But then they have the, but they do. The Greeks have these Greek festivals.
Certainly.
And the Polish have over at one of the churches over in Webster.
Yeah.
They have a big event, and
Right.
you can go over and my wife loves to go over and get pierogi. But this is what I'm saying is, this is so great to have this in the area, and it's in Shrewsbury. Was it 25th of June? Is that what you
That's
told me?
correct.
25th of June, and it's from 11 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon. And
right.
they can just go
Yep.
and have a great time and enjoy themselves. And there's all kinds of vendors.
Yeah.
There's food available.
Sure.
And there's all kinds of games and fun things to do.
Yeah. We'll be dancing. We have accordion music. There's even if you want to just sit and talk to one of our elder statesmen of the place and learn some stuff about Scandinavian countries and how they came to this country. That's one of my favorite things, to talk to some of these people. We're working on getting our archives ready for the public viewing at some point. We don't have them out at this point, but we've got a lot of old items from old Swedes that have came into Worcester over the years. So any and all of that is always appreciated, and to sit and talk with some people is nice.
And at the Midsummer, there's plenty of ample free parking. It's rain or shine. Admission is $5 a person. Kids 12 and under are free.
Wow.
And then there's a meatball dinner, lunch
Right.
available for $8, I believe
Yeah.
it is. That's available between 12 and 2. And then, so again, music and dancing and vendor
drinks.
tables.
Well, you
That's
mentioned
right.
rain or shine. You see,
Yeah.
I never get excited about rain, because all it is water, number
Yeah.
one. And I can't speak for everybody, but I know every morning what I do is I get up, I take all my clothes off, I go into the bathroom, and I step into the shower, and I turn the water on, and the water runs all over me. And then I get up and I get dressed and go out, and if it's raining, they complain. Well, wait a minute, you stood under the shower for 10 minutes this morning, and what's the problem?
There's
So
a
it's only water.
There's a Swedish saying there's no such thing as bad weather. There's only bad clothing.
Yeah, there you are. There you are. But I mean, my point is, but that's great, and I'm so enthusiastic about this because, I have a bunch of books that I've done over the years, research on my family and my mother's family, and you can go back through the years, and I've got books on how far back you go and the coat of arms, and where we from in Ireland. And every year we go over, there's a little section of North Dublin called Vaughan Square. And there's a place up there called the Vaughan's Inn. And it's way, way back relatives. And every year we go over, we tell them we're coming. So they have a big event when we show up. They're all excited, and they all turn out. And it's just a pub, and a restaurant.
Sure.
But it's in Vaughan Square.
Yeah.
And in my case, we go back to, we were able to trace it all the way back. At one time, the name of the brewing company was the Guinness Vaughan Brewing Company,
Oh, no kidding.
and they were related. They were two families,
Yep.
and they were intermarried, and the Guinnesses and the Vaughans. And like all families, they had a big battle, and they didn't know what to do, so they finally sat down, and what they decided to do was that the Guinnesses would take the brewery, and the Vaughans would get the pubs, because back in those days, they controlled everything in Ireland.
That's right.
Guinness Vaughan Brewing had everything.
Yep.
And so they had pubs, and so what they did was the Vaughans took the pubs, and the Guinnesses took the wholesale. And no matter where, every time someone goes to Ireland, I get a postcard with a picture of a Vaughan's pub on.
on it.
But every town had a Vaughan's pub, and that goes back in 1849 or whatever it was. And we were able to trace that back. So what you're doing for the Nordics, what a great thing.
Thanks.
That they're going to be able to go to this event and maybe meet some of the old timers who can really tell them some stories, of how they first came to this country, and they would always, everybody, as I said, I grew up in Malden, and there was 3 distinct sections of town. Those neighborhoods are all gone today, but the
It's a
old
similar
days they
story to
existed.
Worcester.
Yeah.
And Worcester's immigrant.
Oh, yeah, Worcester was the same way.
Is very
yeah.
important. And
Yeah, there was an
at one-
Italian section, an Irish section, the
and
Swedish.
and at
yeah.
one point in the 20s, Worcester was 20% Swedes and Scandinavians.
Yeah.
There
Norton
were
was the big employer.
certainly,
Yeah.
certainly Norton's
Yeah.
and U.S. Steel, and
Yeah.
so the machinists. That part of this story of the Industrial Revolution
Yeah.
and industrialization of Worcester and is a big story melded with Scandinavians.
Yeah.
and
And
important.
They did a lot of work with my wife's grandfather did metal work, and we have lamps that he made, and sconces and different things that he made, and
Boy, they
were
were
proud of their
talented, I'll
skills.
tell
Yeah.
you.
They were very proud of their
Yeah.
skills.
And they had great skills. You know, today, Einstein in listen to this. Einstein in 1939, this is what he said. The more technology we develop, the more idiots we're going to create. and here we are in 2017. I don't have mine. You guys got yours. You can't go anywhere without a phone. You go to the supermarket and they're on the phone. They drive down the street, almost kill you, and they're on the phone. And Einstein in 1939 was right. And here we sit in 2017, and look at all the idiots we've created. With affection, I say that, folks. Don't get upset with me. But think about it. You can't go anywhere without the phone in your ear. But those folks had these. I mean, you go to some of the old churches, instance, and you see this beautiful artwork. You couldn't. First of all, you couldn't get anybody to do it today, or they'd make it out of plastic and slap it up there. But some of that old work that they did by hand, and you talked about making things by hand.
Yeah.
I guarantee they didn't make that on a machine.
No,
Somebody
absolutely
made that
not.
by hand.
Yep.
And so when you think about it, the talent and the ability and the skills that they had.
And
You
if anybody has a feel for architecture, we have the only freestanding dome. There's two of them in the whole country, and it's a
Timber
wood
framed.
dome.
Yep.
And the interior of the wood dome is still fully exposed, so it was freestanding, and the interweavings of the roof is something to see. If you don't come for any other reason, come for that and a drink in the Viking Lounge, and they'll have some special Scandinavian drinks there.
I don't. That's
something
being
with
finalized as well.
lingonberries,
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 an elderflower,
and yeah. So we have good bartenders that take care of that. And our
Oh.
Wednesday social, we have a bar is open
Oh, wow.
down in the downstairs members lounge, and we'd be glad to greet you. We have that tonight. This is a Thursday, so
this is the meeting.
Right.
this is our meeting night. And
Well,
this is
we're
what
going to give you a copy of this,
Yeah.
and you can go back tonight and show it
And
to them.
show everybody.
And you'll say,
And
look
everybody
what
be
we
so
did
proud
today.
of what we
See,
did
Yeah.
how about that?
It'll be
You
a
know,
great thing.
We met this nutty Irishman, and
Yeah.
and we had a great time.
And we had a great time.
But no, I am so excited about this. And so before we leave, we got a minute to go.
Okay.
Tell us once again, it's June 25th.
Sunday, June 25th, from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Scandinavian Athletic Club, SAC Park, which is 438 Lake Street in Shrewsbury, Mass. Come and visit.
So speaking of that, they can put on their GPS and get there.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. It'll come up as the Scandinavian Athletic Club. So.
Great.
That's
Great.
And visit us on Facebook and come
Yeah.
and join us and be as social
Yes.
with us
There you go.
in person as
If-
well.
If you're out there, and if you're from Norway, Sweden, Denmark, or Finland,
And Iceland.
make sure you go. And if you're not, go and find out about it.
And anybody who wants to come to
And have a fun
great
time.
and fun time and fellowship.
Well,
and
There's
that's
a lot
all
of
of
nice
those things.
food. There's nice people, and it's a great big. There's plenty of places for the kiddies to run around. You don't have to worry about them. Fenced in.
Oh, good.
They can't get away. There's no escapes.
Well, you can chain them.
Yep. You can.
No, I'm only teasing you. Well, Walter and Hans, I want to thank you very much.
Yeah.
It was delighted. I'm just so thrilled that you came. And I hope you folks get a chance to get out there and see this event and stop in. And by the way, if you get out there, you know the guns. So when you get there, say, hey, I'm a friend of Hans. And that'll get you anything you need.
Yeah,
right.
Okay?
That's right. I'll be
And then
there.
you say, and I also know Walter. So that'll really help you. Fellas,
met
thanks
me
so,
earlier, yeah.
thanks so much. It's great
Thank
to
you.
see you. And I'm sure it's going to be a great event.
Thank you very much.
And there you are, folks. That's another Conversations with.